welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over all the books I read in May. I'm sorry if the lighting is a bit off. I'm filming on my camera instead of my phone because the last two videos I filmed on my phone and the quality wasn't great. And it's just so much easier to film on my phone, but I dragged out my camera. I'm not good with technology whatsoever, so bear with me as I figure this out. Also, this is my air conditioner, that's what that is. It's off because it's loud, but it's hot, so just bear with me throughout this whole video. I'm going to pull up all of my stats for May. So in the month of May, I read 11 books. That is a total of 3,904 pages, and they all happen to be female authors. I had a very good reading month because I had 6 5-star reads, 3 4-star reads, 1 3-star read, and 1 2-star read. And if you watched my May TBR, then you kind of had an idea of the books I wanted to read. All but one book I got to, and I will explain why I didn't get to that book at the end of this video. So I'm just going to start with the first book I read and then just work my way up to the last book I read rather than starting with my least favorite to my favorite or vice versa. So the first book I read is The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna, and this book was seriously so life-changing. I rated this book 5 stars. I didn't think that I would like historical fiction. I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue and didn't care for that one all that much until it got to like the 1900s and present time. Then it was more interesting to me. So I did think I liked historical fiction because of that. Anything in the 1900s is right up my alley because I like learning about history. I went into this book not knowing what it was about. I didn't know anything about the Dust Bowl or the Great Depression, and this book seriously changed my life because I learned so much. This book was absolutely devastating in like the best way possible, I guess. So many times people ask, it's so depressing, does it get better? And the answer is no, because that's literally the point of the story. It's supposed to be like that. And I think the reason why this book just got me all up in my feels was the fact that it starts with Elsa being like, I think she's like 25, and then all the way up until, I can't remember how old she was when the book ended. It's about almost 500 pages, and so in almost 500 pages you really learn to love Elsa, and I think that's why this book is so devastating. But it had such a good ending. I loved it so much, and I will forever recommend this book to anyone who wants to know more about our history or wants a life-changing book, because this book was seriously so perfect, and I'm so glad I started with this book. So the day I finished The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna, I tried to jump right into my next book. I couldn't really do it, so I gave it a day, and then I read The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. This was my first book by her, and also my first paranormal read. I really enjoyed this book a lot. It was super creepy though, and if you watched my May TBR, then you know that like my husband was gone for the whole month of May pretty much, and because of that I felt like I couldn't read this book at night, which sucks because I got most of my reading done at night. But it was super creepy, enjoyed it a lot. It has 2 different perspectives. It goes from 1982 to 2017 because Carly, the perspective from 2017, wants to find her aunt, but she's never met her aunt, so she doesn't exactly know like what she's looking for. And then Viv Delaney, her aunt, goes missing in 1982, and so they both end up working at this hotel. They find a bunch of stuff out, and it's really interesting and really fun. I enjoyed this book a lot. I gave this book 5 stars as well. The next book I read was Northern Spy by Flynn Barry. Reese Witherspoon made this book sound so interesting, so I was really looking forward to it, and it was a huge disappointment. Like, it's so short, so you think, oh, it's going to be super fast paced. Like, this book is, let's see, I can't remember. I know it's like 200 something pages. 276 pages, so you think, oh, this book is going to be super fast paced, super fun, because it's considered a mystery suspense type book, and it just was so boring. And I'm not one to DNF a book, which sucks because I really, really wanted to. I even tried to find the audiobook from my library on the Libby app to see if I could just suck it up and finish it, because me physically reading it, I was like reading maybe like 20 pages a day. It was so boring. So when I finished it, I was very excited to be done with it. I gave this book 2 stars. Nothing against the author. I will continue to read her books because I'm not going to judge her writing style off of one book. It just, this book was not it. It basically, I don't know if it was because I didn't really understand all that was going on in Ireland or what. To be honest with you, I can't really remember what happens because it was so, it feels like it was so long ago. But basically, it follows the perspective of Tessa, I believe, just Tessa. And her sister, Marion, gets caught like shoplifting or something, and they suspect she's in the IRA, and then it just goes from there. And it sounds interesting. It just, the writing was not it. I just wasn't a fan. The next book I read was The One by Kiara Cass. This is the 3rd book in the Selection series. This book was really fun. I didn't know what to expect going into it because I didn't care for the Elite all that much. Like, I gave it 4 stars, but the Elite was just, I felt like it could have ended better, and it didn't. So I was a little bit hesitant going into this book, but I gave this book 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this book. And I'm very excited for the 4th book, which I will be reading in June. I'm not going to go into detail about what the one is about because it's the 3rd book in the series, but it was a good book. The next book I read was my first Lisa Jewell book, and I was so excited for it. It was Then She Was Gone. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I liked going into books not knowing what they're about. It just makes reading it way more fun. And that's exactly what I did with this book. I didn't know anything going into it, and it literally was so suspenseful and so thrilling. I read this book so fast. I gave it 5 stars. Lisa Jewell is a phenomenal writer, by the way. If you haven't read any of her books and you don't know where to start, I started with this one, and I suggest this one to anyone that asks. I'm in a book group on Facebook, and I posted my May wrap up, and a lot of people were asking which book I started with, and I started with this one. This book follows Ellie Mack. She goes missing, and she's been missing for many, many years. 10 years goes by, and her mother Laurel is still trying to put the pieces together of where her daughter went. Her daughter said she was going to the library and then never came home. And I really don't want to give any more away. The reviews on Goodreads said that this book was extremely predictable. I did suspect the person right away. See, now I don't know if I'm giving too much away. I did suspect one thing right away. Everything else, I had no idea what was coming, and I was shook when I got to it. Loved it. Highly recommend this book. Super good. The next book I read is Cinder. I planned on reading the whole series, but if I'm being honest, this book just, I tried to branch out of my comfort zone and read sci-fi, fantasy type books, and some of them I enjoy, some of them I don't. This was one of them. I'm aborting the whole series at this point because I don't want to finish it. This book was 3 stars. I'm so glad I found the audiobook for this book because I don't think I would have finished it otherwise. Well, I would have because I don't DNF books, but it would have taken me a lot longer to finish it than it did if I didn't have the audiobook, because when I have the audiobook, I put it on like 2.5, 2.2 speed because the audiobook readers are super slow. Fun fact, Marissa Meyer lives in my town, so that's super fun. It's basically like a Cinderella retelling of like robots and cyborgs and just a bunch of other stuff, and if I'm being honest, my mind wandered during the audiobook because I couldn't stay focused because I just didn't enjoy it. So I'm not finishing the series. Gave this book 3 stars. Gonna give it back to my sister so I have room on my shelf for books I actually enjoyed. The next book I read, I pre-ordered, and I am so glad I did because I seriously loved this book so much. It was so fun. I reviewed it on my Bookstagram. The author commented on it, so I like fangirled super hard, but it was The Hunting Wives by May Cobb. This book came out on May 18th, I believe. Pre-ordered it, got it on the 18th, finished it within a couple of days. But the only thing that I didn't care for in this book was the infidelity. It just made me like super uncomfortable. But once I got past that part and actually started getting to the juicy bits, it went back up to a 5-star rating for me, because with the infidelity I was like gonna give it 4 stars, and then it got to the juicy bits. I'm like, okay, fine, 5 stars. But this book is like Mean Girls meets Real Housewives, and like the stalker guy, Joe or whatever his name is. I'm not familiar with that series or books or whatever. But this book follows Sophie and Margot mostly. There is other perspectives, I think, but it mostly follows Margot and Sophie. Sophie's like the super main character, but she moves from Chicago to a small town in Texas, and she so desperately wants to fit in, and she becomes obsessed with this girl named Margot. They end up becoming friends, and she joins like their secret group that nobody knows about called the Hunting Wives, where they just shoot guns and stuff, like super Texas like, I guess, with the like cowgirls and the guns. I don't know. Margot and some of her friends that are in the Hunting Wives like, do a lot of infidelity, and then all of a sudden one of the girls that's in the Hunting Wives group's son's girlfriend goes missing, and that's the juicy part. But that doesn't happen until, I'm not even kidding you, like 200 pages in. But it's so worth the read. I enjoyed it so much. I definitely want to have my mom read this when she's done moving, because she will enjoy it a lot. The next book I read was my first Taylor Jenkins Reid book, and it was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is also my first LGBTQ book, which I didn't know it was actually an LGBTQ book until I went to buy it off of Amazon, and they had it categorized in that category, because I was super confused. I'm like, but it says husbands. So as I was reading it, I understood. And this book was so good. It wasn't like the best book I've ever read. I only gave it 4 stars, which still is a good rating. But I definitely enjoyed it, was not disappointed, read it super fast. Now the next book I want to read by her is Daisy Jones and the Six, because I enjoyed this book so much. I think this book and then Daisy Jones and the Six are like her most popular reads. I know that most of her books are very well known. Like I really want to read Malibu Rising. I'm very, very tempted to pre-order it because it sounds so good. Actually, I think by this point it's out. Yeah, it came out June 1st. Today's June 2nd. And I know it's on Book of the Month, but I don't have Book of the Month. But it sounds super interesting, so. But this book follows Evelyn Hugo and, oh my god, I'm already blanking on the reporter's name. Monique. This book follows Monique mostly, who is a like journalist, and Evelyn Hugo, who's like super famous. Like I want to say she's like the Audrey Hepburn of like modern time. Word on the street is Evelyn's finally gonna do an exclusive interview just one time, and so all these reporters slash journalists really want to be the one to do the interview. But Evelyn Hugo specifically asks for Monique Grant, which is weird because Monique's like not super high up in her company at all. And then Monique gets there and Evelyn's like, we're not doing an interview on the dresses, because she was gonna donate dresses to like a charity or something for cancer research. Not really relevant. The relevant part was that Monique gets there and Evelyn's like, yeah, haha, psych, we're not actually doing that. I want you to write a book on my life. And so they sit down and they go through each husband one by one, and Monique says, who was your true love? But was it any of the husbands? I don't know. You'll have to read to find out. It was super good. Like I said, 4 stars. The next book I read was another Lisa Jewell book because I couldn't get enough after I read Then She Was Gone. So I picked this one up. Wasn't on my TBR for May. But this book, it was good, but it definitely was the first book where I've actually had to take notes so I could remember the characters and all their personality traits and how they were all connected, because there was so much going on that it was hard to follow at times, to the point where I would have to go back to my notes and be like, okay, this person works here, they do blah blah blah, and they're connected to so and so by this. So I didn't care for having to do that. I think that really took a star down for me, but I still gave it 4 stars, but I think it would have been better if I could actually remember the characters and keep up with everything just in my head, not actually having to take notes while reading. But it's fine, I enjoyed it. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this book because it's hard to talk about, hence why I had to take notes. Good book though. Don't recommend starting with this one though, because I feel like if anyone were to start their Lisa Jewell journey with this book, they probably won't want to read anymore. I don't know. That's just me. The next book I read wasn't on my TBR. It was actually on my June TBR, but one of the books I didn't get to in May was because it wasn't going to be delivered in time, because it wasn't Prime, and I really wanted the hardcover because the paperback was everywhere, but the hardcover on Amazon was cheaper even though it wasn't Prime, so it took longer. Said it wasn't going to be here until today. It actually was delivered the end of May, so I could have read it in May, but I didn't know it was going to be delivered in May. Anyways, so I decided to read this one, which is another Lisa Jewell book, Invisible Girl. This book was good. I really wanted to read it because I thought the cover was just like really beautiful, and I enjoyed it a lot. There's also a lot going on in this book, but I didn't have to take notes to remember everything, but it was kind of like watching you. It was hard to follow at times if you didn't remember, if you didn't have very good memory. I feel like this is a book that you need to read in one sitting or in one day, because I would come back to it after sleeping like 12 hours at night. Let's be real, I have an 8-month-old. I don't sleep 12 hours at night, but the average person would get like 8 to 10, maybe 12 hours of sleep at night. I feel like if they were to come back to it, they have to like refresh their memory by reading back like a chapter. So that was the only thing about this book that I didn't really care for. It does have different perspectives though within each chapter, which I enjoy books like that. I think it's fun hearing like two or three different perspectives. But because of the whole like putting the book down, picking it up in the morning after sleeping, having to go back to remember everything that happened, I did only give it 4 stars. The last book I read in May was a perfect book to end with because it was another 5-star read for me. And this book is thick. I mean, it's not like super thick. Like it's got like less than 400 pages, but like for some reason it's thick. But I read this book so quick because it was so good. I could not put it down. If I did not have a baby, I would have definitely read this in one sitting or one day. But this was My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. I enjoyed this book a lot. She's actually coming out with another book here within the next couple of months, and I have no idea what the book is about, but because it's by Samantha Downing, I will 100% read it. I've already added it to my Amazon wish list. I have added it to my want to read on Goodreads. It sounds interesting. I love her writing style. She's very good. But this book follows a husband and wife who have 2 kids. They have like the picture perfect marriage, got lots of money, like a beautiful house, beautiful happy family. And the wife's sister, why am I blanking on the wife's name? Oh, it's because it's not your normal name, Millicent. Millicent's sister Holly was torturing Millicent as now, I don't want to say a baby because she wasn't a baby, but like in their early teens, as they got older, was torturing her, and like her parents weren't believing her. And so finally they put her in like a psychiatric hospital or something like that. And then she gets out and she goes to their house, and Millicent tells her husband, God, what is his name? I'm really bad with names, and you'll learn that the more videos I come out with. It's from his perspective, so it doesn't say his name a whole lot. I cannot remember his name. He tells people that his name is Tobias, but that's not actually his real name. Owen. No, not Owen. That was a different book I read. The kids' names are Rory and Jenna, but what is his name? I really feel like it's Owen. Oh, now my camera battery is dying. Lovely. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna look up what his name is because I can't remember. It's saying that his name is Tobias, and that is not his name. That's the fake name he tells people. Whatever. I spent too much time on that already. But basically, Holly comes and Millicent is freaking out and tells her husband that she's threatening her, and then her husband ends up killing Holly, and then they end up having a liking to being killers, I guess. They end up killing enough people to be considered serial killers. So it's like husband and wife serial killers. I think they described it as like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but it was super good. I'm really bad at describing books. I'm so sorry. This book was a perfect book to end my month with though, so I really enjoyed it a lot. There's a lot more that goes into this book with like police investigations and all that, so I definitely recommend picking up this book. If you want a super quick, fast read, Even though this book is almost 400 pages, I 100% guarantee that anyone who reads this book will get through it so fast. I mean, if you have the time to, like if you don't have to go to work or you don't have babies running around, I feel like anyone who picks this up would have a hard time putting it down. So it's one of those books, if you want a quick, easy read, 100% pick up this book. But that's every book I read in May. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, I am so sorry. I'm really bad at describing books. Because I don't want to give away too much with like spoilers, and then I don't want to like be too vague, although I prefer vague descriptions with like a few key words to get me hooked on the book, but it's fine. I'm sure if you really wanted to know more, you could look it up on Goodreads. Anyways, that's everything that I read in May. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on post notifications to be notified every time I upload, which is not frequent at all. I don't have a schedule yet. My husband is gone the whole month of May, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to film because, like I said, I have an 8-month-old baby. Anyways, leave a comment. Let me know what your favorite books that you read this month were. Let me know what's on your June TBR, what you're currently reading, if you don't have a TBR and you just pick up books as they come. But yeah, I'd love to hear it. Okay, thanks so much for watching. Bye.